So I'm here this morning with Natalie C, who is the principal at Hilltop Road Public School, which is a large metropolitan school in Merrylands in Western Sydney. Hilltop Road has students from really diverse cultural backgrounds and has an ICSEA score of 979. They believe that parental involvement is key to engagement, and I'm going to ask Nat a little bit more about that this morning. The team and Nat have achieved above state average growth for Year 5 NAPLAN results in both literacy and numeracy this year, with 28% of students achieving in the top 2 bands across the literacy subject. The target for schools of this demographic is 3% and will go up to 6% next year. I'm going to talk to Nat about how the instructional leadership that she's practiced has impacted on student growth and how she knew that what she and the team were doing was working. Hi, Nat.
Hi, Erin. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. So just a few questions for you today. So when you first took over as principal approximately 10 years ago, I know you've been at the school much longer, how did you know which areas of the current practice needed to be changed or evolved to meet your students' learning needs?
Well, first of all, Erin, what we looked at was around student engagement and what was happening with engagement. How teachers were responding to children. We started with literacy to unlock other subjects, and we built the capacity of staff around expectations for students and their understanding of the syllabus and the stage statements and what was expected for each stage in literacy.
And you said you started with literacy to unlock the other subjects. How did you come about that decision to start with literacy?
Well, we believed that unless our students were able to clearly articulate their learning and had the literacy skills and were literate, they weren't able to engage satisfactorily in the other subjects. So we needed to really build their literacy capacity, their vocab and their comprehension and understanding so they could literally unlock the other subjects.
So once you'd identified this particular focus area, how did you determine what actions you wanted to take? And was that all down to you as the principal? Did you lead the actions yourself or did you use the team? What did that look like at Hilltop Road?
Well, I think it's really important to begin by saying as an instructional leader, we must be involved in the work. I mean, we have to model, be part of what's happening within the school, within the classrooms, build that trust to inform the strategic vision and activate the enabling conditions for students, teachers and the community. So I really believe it's incredibly important to be in amongst the work and doing what needs to be done. So we started with the vision to build the capacity for all and developed a shared responsibility that we needed to improve learning outcomes for all of our students. We invested in high impact professional learning for all, making sure that everybody had the same message and the opportunity to engage with high level professional learning. We utilised experts in the field and brought in those experts and made sure that they're accessible to all staff, classroom teachers, our learning support, our SLSO, all members of the school. But also most importantly, we prototyped and test next practice. We also, if I can just add, implemented some new school systems because to enable, and we kind of refer to those as our enabling conditions. How do we enable the work to happen? We had to look at our timetable and we had to look at how we could mobilise mentoring and learning walks and collaborative planning. So if we wanted to improve what we were doing, we had to look at the strategies and the structures that were at school. And we also looked at how we could, once we engaged all staff in the professional learning, how we could differentiate the professional learning to meet the needs specifically of our beginning teachers, our teachers returning from maternity leave who'd missed out on key messages. So it was really a strategic focus as well, included within those, what we call enabling conditions.
Thanks. Lots in that answer. So I'm just going to check my understanding that. So what you're saying is to begin with, whenever you're rolling out something new, to begin with, you make sure that everybody in the school, and that includes everybody, that includes your LSOs, right through to you as the principal, receives the same message, often from an external an expert, but then a bit like, and I'm putting it into my class, my brain's now going into my classroom now, a bit like I would do with my class. Once I've done my input with everybody, you have differentiated groups depending on where your teachers are at, perhaps in their career or just perhaps in their level of expertise around a particular subject, and some groups might get sort of more specific intervention around the topic that you're working on, and
Absolutely.
some of you groups might be used as mentors or coaches to
absolutely. So it mobilizes, and it brings that kind of call to action for everyone. It mobilizes people at their point of entry. So we enabled people to be in mentoring positions and to support. And we also offered additional support through our mentoring and our learning walks. So it's really about targeting where people need specific to build their capacity in their teacher practice.
I'm just going to pick up on one of the other things you said, Nat, in that answer. You said that you prototyped and tested whatever that next practice was with your K-6 exec team first before you rolled it out to the rest of the school. Could you explain a little bit more about how that works and how you knew that that was practice that you wanted to roll out further?
Sure. So I think the most important thing, it's related to student data. So we looked at data before we made our decisions about what practice to implement. Then when we did our test, we actually looked at what is the impact, where is the improvement in outcomes, what has been achieved. And I think it's really important this clear message that I want to really to say is around, it's really important to do a test rather than go whole school and hope. We went with, this is working for a small group, then we've scaled it across a grade, then we've scaled it across K-2, then we've scaled it across particularly 3 to 6 or the whole school. So before we invested resources, time and energy, we prototype, test, look for impact. If we have impact, then we proceed. And then we scale out from that point. And then we can put our resources behind it. And the one thing I think it's important to note is that we've made mistakes. We've had to pivot, we've had to rethink, but we've done it on a small scale, not right across the school. And that frees up teachers from the, oh, here we go again, I hope this is going to work type of thing, to we know that it has merit. And so therefore we have buy-in from staff because we've started small and then we've scaled out.
And that's a perfect segue to the next question. It's as if we planned it. Once you have determined that you want to roll out a particular action across school,
yes, how
do you create that collective efficacy and ownership and responsibility for carrying out that action?
What we've done is made sure that we've given people time and the resource and once again the enabling conditions for that to happen. So we've looked at, if we're going to scale something out, how do teachers have time to meet together? Where are there opportunities to engage in collaborative practice? Not at 3:30 or at 4 o'clock when they're tired, but in the school day, when we can combine to do, RFF, there's an hour or so each week to do collaborative planning together. So we enable these things to happen within the school day and in a very structured way. We've also really looked for that distributive leadership. So for example, with our strategic directions, I think is a good example. We have 8 to 10 people in a strategic direction group. And each term, 2 people from that group lead that initiative. So it's really building that capacity across the school for ownership, for we're in this together. I have a responsibility when I'm the leader in term 2 to meet with the team, to set directions, to have my opinion heard, to listen to others. And it really does build that collective responsibility around the work that we're doing. And so there's some of the examples.
Yeah, it's very clear that deprivatisation of practice has happened across your school, and that now it's easier for people to come in who've only been there 2 weeks, because that is a given within the culture of Hilltop Road. But I'm very certain that, as you say, it took you a long time to get there. So
absolutely, it's taken a very long time to get there, but it certainly has been worth the journey, because the benefit has been with our students, and the trusting relationships and the willingness for staff to participate and be part of that school culture. And I think that's one thing to remember. Anybody out there watching, I'm talking about the success. We've had lots of things that have not worked and things that have or have not. And I think that's really important to know. But that culture of building that supportive, collaborative culture within the school has taken a long time. But it has been one that as a principal, I have tried to really build the capacity of that, because we understand how that leverages change and so many other possibilities. We have visitors to our school, obviously not in our COVID times, but have said, why do people just let people come into their rooms, and why does that happen? And it's really hard to explain the why. It's just what's expected, because it's been built up over time, and it has taken a long time. But it doesn't matter if you've been at Hilltop for 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, or 20 years. If you've got something to add and a voice and you want to contribute, then your voice is heard in the school. And I think that's something that also elevates people's willingness to be involved and to take a chance. And the open classrooms and the support is definitely, it's there right across the school.
And the last question is the $1 million question, Nat. How do you know that what you're doing as a principal has impacted student learning?
Okay, well, definitely a positive school culture, our improved student engagement and attendance, our agentic students who can articulate their learning needs and their future directions. Our students are now able to say, I'm here, I need to be there, this is what I've got to do, this is how I know I can move myself forward. Our collective teacher efficacy, teachers want to build and improve their skills, they're willing and are ready to learn and be involved. And our parents are part of our story. They feel that they are connected to the learning and the work that their students are doing, and that they can impact on what's happening at home and support students with their learning. So that's how we know that we're being successful, and that we feel that we have improved as a school over this period.
So you're able to talk from that fortunate position 10 years down the track of your principalship, and we heard in my introduction that your NAPLAN results were looking really good this year, and you're ahead of your targets. But what about if you think back to, when you were only 2 or 3 years into this journey, and you were probably having those doubts that we all have when we're a couple of years into a journey of, am I doing it right, and is it working? What were the little signs or the learnings along the way that told you that you were on the right track?
Well, I think it is really important to mention to everyone, like you said, that this has been an up and down journey for us. Our results have been up and down, they haven't been consistent. So I think it's really appropriate to mention that and be fair and honest. But the little data, the data that matters, and I did have that moment, being the principal and thinking, wow, this was a good idea. And and thinking, wow, but looking for those little moments, like increased vocab, students being able to engage in conversations, increased attendance, people wanting to come to the school, enrollments increasing, our reputation as the rough school in the area really tapering off, looking for those little moments of success. Teachers turnover completely decreased. Teachers are wanting to stay to be part of the vision, be part of the story. So they have been really important moments. And I think it's important to mention that they're the ups and downs, and there are free-falling moments where you have to take a chance and you have to back yourself, and you thought something was going to work and it didn't. But it's always, I think, as a leader, you must be reflective and you must look for next practice that will influence student outcomes, and be a learner myself. I'm always looking for what I need to do and how I can improve what's happening. But I've still got a lot to learn as a principal with my colleagues and my fellow colleagues, you know, within South Australia, wherever they are. It's important to look for the opportunities to grow the practice and improve what's happening. So it hasn't been an easy ride. It won't continuing on moving forward, but it's really important to look for those small wins, stay true to the vision, the strategic direction that you've set in place to make sure that those conditions are enabled for your teachers and your students and your community to lift. And I think strategy is incredibly important as well. But I think it's important to note that it hasn't been an easy journey. It will continue, but strategy, enabling conditions, look for the small wins and the success and celebrate that success. And when the system sometimes gets you down because you think, oh, we're not getting here, we're not getting those results, keep pushing through because we're investing for that community that we serve, and we just need to keep lifting and improving as we go.